Friday. Welcome to the It's Giving Mystical mini episode on the card of the week. It's me, Kirsten, with you always. And the card we're going to talk about this week is the Eight of Swords. Yay! I was thinking to myself that we're going to come off these past 3 fire wand weeks, and I was hoping for a little earth energy, a little cup energy, a little love and beauty in our lives. But instead we are showing up with the swords. Okay, swords are our mental body. It is air energy, it is thoughts and communication and language and ideas and concepts and frameworks and narratives. It's all the beautiful creations and also prisons that the mind creates for us. The eights are always about earthly manifestation. So they're about the way in which the things that we create actually show up. Eights are really simply the idea that as above, so below. And when things are created in the mental plane, in the ethers, they can't help but find form in the real world. Be careful not to believe everything you think is a great quote for the Eight of Swords. The Eight of Swords is a very interesting card because our character is bound. Their eyes are covered, their arms are bound. The bindings actually roll down over their hips as well. So they're really constricted in their movement and constricted in their ability to perceive what is happening because their eyes are covered. There is a wall of swords and they are finding their way through this wall of swords. Okay, so what does that mean for us? It means for us that there is some way in which your mind is failing you right now. Your ideas about the way it should have been, the way it should be, your constructs, the constructs around which you are creating your world, meaning as you grow, as you become a human being, as you become a fully functioning member of a culture, you take on the stories of that culture. You take on the stories of your family of origin. You take on the stories of your community, your peers, your stories around ambition, stories around what success looks like, stories around what satisfaction is, stories around what do I need to do? What am I here for? What is the reason? What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What kind of person am I? All of these things are like these layered narratives that you build up, and it helps you construct the world and understand it, make sense of it. So in many ways, they are an ally of ours. And one of the reasons language is so important for children is they're so wide open. Like as perceptual beings, children are wide open. And one of the beautiful things that language does is it helps them give shape to the world. It helps make sense of the chaos. It's so important as a parent, as a caregiver, as anyone who has children you love in your life, to allow a variety of things to have names. When you say to a child, no, that doesn't exist, that literally closes the door for them. Like kind of cuts off that whole perceptional realm for them. And while in some ways it's a beautiful thing to help give their life balance and enclosure, it's also, we want to make sure we're not closing doors because we don't understand them. And so one of the most beautiful things you can say to a child is, tell me more. What's that like for you? What does that feel like? What does that look like? What do you imagine that might be? Because by saying that, you don't have to explain it or fix it for them, but you can say to them, yeah, sure, I'm with you. Like, I'm with you on this journey. And I admit that there are things you might perceive that have value, even if I don't understand them. This is such an important message for all children. I wish we all heard that as a child. So the Eight of Swords is really this conversation. It's this conversation around what are the mental constructs that you've built to make sense of your world, to keep yourself safe, to have a plan, an agenda, a way to move forward, and also where have those things become a binding to you. So look at the world you've created, look at the frameworks you've created, look at the assumptions you've made, and notice that while they are there and they exist and they're true, they are also limiting. And the Eight of Swords is the realization that at some point we're going to have to think more broadly. We're going to have to almost rediscover those perceptual states that we may have lost as a child, rediscover those aspects of ourself that our mind body, our mental body wasn't built to hold. So the Eight of Swords brings us to this place where we become aware of the manifestations that we have created from our mental projections, our mental frameworks, our defining narratives. So if I say to myself, this is the way the world works, this is who I am in the world. This is how I move successfully in the world. I will create that world. I will create that world. I had this experience at the grocery store where this woman behind me in line, I felt so bad for her because her car was hit in the parking lot, like while we were standing in line, and they said her name over the loudspeaker. And we talked about it for a minute. And then as I was leaving, I said, I hope it's, she was so distraught. And I said, I hope it's as easy as possible for you. And she looks at me and she goes, it's never easy. And I was like, oh man. I was like, oh, it like hurt me in my bones. I was like, I wanted to be like, baby girl. And she was like 70. I wanted to be like, baby girl, don't curse yourself that way. Don't curse yourself that way. It's a perfect Eight of Swords moment. Like, I have spoken the world into being. I have thought and manifested the world into being. Your mental body is so powerful, right? And the Eight of Swords comes when we hit a limit there in some way. We hit a limit. So it can be that we don't like what we've created. It can be that something comes to confront us and we don't have mental tools for it and we feel lost. Like, I actually don't have the answer. I don't have a solution. I can't think or reason or logic my way forward in this. The Eight of Swords is so beautiful because it brings in this element of water, which you don't really see in the swords suit in tarot. It brings in this element of water, and our character, who is bound by the eyes and bound by the arms, her feet are free. Their feet are free. And they have found this stream. And if you look at the card, they're traveling through the stream, down the stream, kind of blind. Traveling blind is really the best description of it. And their feet are kind of shuffling along this river. And if you see this river, it reaches up to the mountaintops and then it reaches also out through the one gap in the swords. And so what the Eight of Swords is saying to us is like, when you get to the end of what's possible with your mind, keep going. Like, keep going. Recognize that there are moments where you have to leap. There are moments where you have to just trust your gut, just trust one foot in front of the other, just trust the river, like the tiny river, even if it's just a tiny, tiny little stream, right? All water leads back to the ocean. All rivers lead back to the ocean. All streams lead home. Have that faith. Oh my gosh, I heard the best. I mean, TikTok's the best. I hope people really appreciate the creativity and community and genius that happens on that app. Maybe just in my canoe of TikTok, but it's such a brilliant place. And I heard this guy and he was saying acrobats, like the trapeze artists, what they do is they swing on the trapeze. And at some point, the momentum gets to a certain point where they can launch themselves off. And that is literally a leap of faith. And what the acrobat knows is that they'll be caught on the other side. They have supreme faith that when the momentum swings in such a way, they can release themselves, fly through the air, and be caught on the other side. That is a perfect analogy for this card. And what he goes on to say is, we are all doing that in our lives. And it gets really boring if we're just swinging. That's the mental body, right? Like, it gets really boring if we're just kind of staying in this framework and we're like, this is it. This is the way the world works. Nailed it. The moments that test us, the moments that call us to, I don't know, new levels of joy, new levels of experience, new possibilities in our life are the moments where we let go, where we feel the momentum building, the swinging. The swinging is like taking on its own shape until we are launched. And the Eight of Swords is like a very gentle launch. So whatever comes up for you this week, recognize that you might be confronted with the limits of your thinking. I said it in the beginning of this. Don't believe everything you think. I think that's a basic mindfulness premise, but it's so important and it's so key. Don't believe everything you think. 90% of your conscious thoughts you had yesterday, and unless you do something to shift that, you're gonna have them tomorrow. We're just kind of looping. And if you've ever listened to The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer, he talks about this obnoxious roommate that lives rent-free in your brain. That is in some ways your mental body when it is not given a task or given not put in its place, because you don't want to limit it, but running in a healthy way, moving in a place of creativity and health. So the Eight of Swords is don't believe everything you think. If you come to the limit of what is possible, what's possible for you to imagine or think or solve for yourself, just keep going. Just keep going. Trust your feet. come back to your body. Trust the fact that like you are an embodied being. You are a physical being, you are an emotional being, you are a spiritual being, you are a mental being. You got a lot going for you. You got a lot going on. The Eight of Swords is the kind of the confrontation of the limits of the mental body, the limits of what the mental body can create, the limits of where the mental body can take you. And this comes back to what I said in part of the May podcast, but like that concept of dream bigger, you get to a point where you're dreaming so big that you can't even imagine what that means. Like you can't even imagine that leap. You can't even imagine what it will be like to fly through the air with total faith that you will be caught, that you will land exactly right. Oh my God, it feels so good. And I know I sound a little Pollyanna when I get into this feeling, but I also know it to be true. Coming back to the Eight of Swords, you will find yourself confronted by your mind this week. That might be a little bit of anxiety. That might be a problem you just can't solve with your words, with your thoughts, with your mental body. And what the card is asking you to do is to find your feet, to trust your path, to trust the other parts of you that are active. So if you're blinded, you're going to trust your ears more, touch more. Your other senses are going to come alive when you can't trust your eyes. So when you can't quite trust what's happening in your brain, what else comes alive for you? Lean into that this week. It actually does relate back to the fact that fire has been with us these past 3 weeks. It's like maybe partially what you're going to be confronted with this week is the way your fire can carry you in a way that you may not have experienced before, or that you might be experiencing again in a fresh way. Listen, I love this card. I always have, because it just speaks to the faith in a human's ability to persevere. Like it just speaks to the fact that I get like emotional thinking about it, but it just speaks to the fact that like you really don't know what people have survived, and you really don't know what's happening inside anyone else's mind. You don't know what it's like for someone to get up in the morning, and you don't know what demons plague them, and you don't know, I don't know how they've arrived here today in whatever dimension, right? Like you can't understand that, and yet people do. People get up and face the most difficult things, and they keep going. It's like really, sorry, I'm very emotional, but I feel that the human spirit is something extraordinary, and the Eight of Swords speaks to that. The Eight of Swords speaks to the fact that there is something undeniable in our desire to live, in our desire to become whatever it is we're here to become. I hope that gives you some strength in the week ahead. I hope that it gives you some faith in your invincible spirit this week, and in the invincible spirit of all people, of humanity. That would be nice if we felt that this week. Take it easy, move slow, and remember, don't believe everything you think. Question your thoughts, and open your other awarenesses more widely this week, and see where that takes you, see where that brings you. I send you so much love, so much light, and I'm with you. I am with you. Take care. It's giving everything is sacred. It's giving art. It's giving light you up and turn you on and set you free. It's giving curiosity. It's giving freedom. It's giving love. It's giving you are more magical and powerful than you can comprehend. It's giving, I don't know what's happening, but I am so here for it. It's giving you are pure potential. It's giving mystical.